Everybody, welcome to the Ronline report. We've had some interesting guests lately. We've had, Ms. Olympias, Mr. Olympias, this and that. But today I wanted to bring on a guy who I love watching on Facebook and YouTube. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. This is Jeff Wright, originally from New Jersey, now in Pennsylvania. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today on the Ronline report.
No, thank you. It's an honor. It's a treat. It's a pleasure to be here. If you would have told me when I first started bodybuilding I was going to be on Muscular development, I would have said, "You're crazy. Is this real? Am I really on here?"
Now, I'm just curious, how old are you? How long have you been in bodybuilding? Because I have no idea.
I'm 33, so I'm almost dead now. Let's see. I started bodybuilding when I think I did my first show when I was about 23.
Okay. So 33, you're just a kid. Now, you grew up in New Jersey by the beach. Would that qualify as Jersey Shore or no?
Yeah, yep, all the way down by Cape May, Wildwood, New Jersey. Yep, right by the ocean there.
What is it about New Jersey that's always, I've been part of the sport for a very long time. It's always been so many bodybuilders coming out of New Jersey. And just even people that don't compete, there's just been this huge interest as far as back as I can remember in that particular Garden State with being big and jacked and muscular and ripped and all that. Where do you think it comes from?
I think it's ego. It's that East Coast work ethic and, drive to want to be the best.
Okay, fair enough. Now, for some reason I thought you lived in Arizona, but you live in some place called Phoenixville.
Yeah.
Not
Arizona with the dry heat. Nah, I don't think so.
How did you end up?
No offense to Arizonians.
Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead there for more than 5 minutes myself. No offense to anyone either. How did you start making these videos that you make?
I started as a joke, really. I put the computer on and, I was on social media, but I just started it, had like 20 friends, and I made a video just messing around. I woke up one morning, my hair was all messed up, and I didn't even think I was going to post it. Yeah. And I just posted it for fun because a couple friends I went to the gym with, and they saw it and they thought it was really funny, and I was like, I'll leave it up there. And then it got passed around, and then I just enjoyed doing it, so I just kept doing it whenever I felt like, because I'm a little crazy, so It was a good outlet. I was like, hey, I like it.
Now you've competed a bunch of times, from what I could see. You've been at the national level, but you've done mostly regional shows. Is it more of a hobby to you, or is it something you really want to pursue more seriously at some point?
I think in the beginning I was like, this is it. I'm going to be Mr. Olympia. I mean, that's what I'm going to be. Like everybody, when they first start, you get that bug. And I really wanted to push it as hard as I could, and I did. Until now, I've realized, I don't have the genetics. I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia, and I'm fine with that. But I still love bodybuilding, and I still want to compete, and I'm still going to do it, and I'm still going to push my hardest. So when I get to a point, I can say at least I tried as hard as I could, and I ain't use an excuse that I don't have the genetics, But yeah, that's how I started.
Well, you've done a lot of videos, but one of them I just watched this morning was an interview with yourself that you did, which I thought was, I've never seen anyone do that before. And you were very uncomfortably dressed in a three-piece suit the whole time.
Slim fit. Slim fit.
A slim fit suit. But you talked about, a lot of the things you talk about you're basically just like portraying a caricature of what we actually hear and see all the time. Like you talked about, I'd be Mr. Olympia or a pro if I had the secret drug stack and things like that.
Well, yeah, all the things that are passed around that probably more than half of it is nonsense and not true, but this is what you hear, so I'm kind of spoofing off of that.
You're actually a fairly young guy, but you seem to have a perspective of some of us older guys who've been around forever and just shake our heads and roll our eyes constantly at everything we've seen here on social media in particular. Instagram in particular, to me, and I think you've made a lot of commentary on it too, Instagram has really changed this whole fitness industry. Can you give me your take on if there's anything good about it and what's bad about it?
Oh, I'll say the bad thing because, yeah, when I started, there was no social media, none of that stuff. Instagram, I think, has messed a lot of people up, believe it or not, because I try to put myself in the position of somebody that's getting into this fitness stuff. Starting on Instagram, they're seeing flashes of hundreds and thousands of pictures of these freaks, and some of it's real, but a lot of it's doctored, not real. In the past, you would see the top guys in the magazines, and you knew they were the best. It was kind of unattainable, but you looked up to it.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing people. I'm 20 years old, and I see a guy from Iran who's 20, and he looks like a freak. But then the picture's doctored up, photoshopped. But I think seeing those images over and over every single day, I think messes with your psyche, and I think you're going to have some people that have a lot of issues with themselves, self-esteem issues.
Yeah.
Now I think the thing, like, I look at it when I'm on there. I just put my stuff on there. I look at some stuff on there. I don't let it sink in. I don't let it affect me. I think just because of the age and everything and being past that, it doesn't affect me. It could be good for entertainment or motivation if you take it in the right way, in the right context.
We all like looking at pictures of like hot chicks, especially their butts. I'm a butt man. But what do you think when you scroll through these? And I'm just looking at the pictures, but occasionally, just for the hell of it, I'll look at the captions. And a lot of these girls will have a full-on ass pic with a thong at best, and it's got like 3 Bible quotes, or it's got this long inspirational Tony Robbins type of quote. Why can't these people just say, "This is my ass and I think it looks great. Tell me how great my ass looks"?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. But I think the funny thing is, you ever know one of these people in person, and then you see what they post online, and it's like a completely different person. And you're like, what are you doing? And I think, well, it sells, right? I mean, that's money's going to that. It's not, when I used to look in the magazines, there was a big bodybuilder selling Cell Tech. And I was like, that's the one. I got to get that to look like that. Yep. Now, people are doing it for free. They show their ass and a supplement, and they're getting the followers, and then they're getting the money because people want to advertise just because people are viewing it, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's not just blame this on, make the girls sound like they're the only ones being.
Oh no, I don't think so.
I mean, the attention whore bug is not particular to any gender. There's, I don't know if this bothers you. It doesn't bother me so much, but I just find it kind of comical. The progress pics I see every day, and a lot of guys and girls will post basically the same exact picture, same exact lighting, same spot every single day, and make comments about their progress. And there obviously isn't any progress from day to day. And sometimes if you scroll back, they kind of look the same they did 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Why do you think there's such a need for people to be told that they're making progress when they're actually not?
I think because they don't know what else to put on there, first off, so they're just putting a picture, and they need that satisfaction. It's addiction. I think it's an addiction. You need the likes. You need to keep going. Some people, they need that to survive. Like, their reality is online rather than in the real world, because that's not enough. We're in the society now of, I need the next thing. I need the next thing now. Yeah. So everyday life in the real world is boring, and it's.
All right. Let's talk about some more things. We have, back in the day, nobody felt the need to travel to some other country to become a better bodybuilder, but we have this mythical land called Kuwait now, this faraway place where it's a fantasy for everybody. Is I could go there and just eat, sleep, train, and do any kind of supplements I want for free, and come back with 40 pounds more muscle. What's your take on the whole Camel Crew experience and this obsession with Kuwait these days?
I'll go. Hey, if you're seeing me now, I'm going. Take me there. I think it's been said now. That's what it is. You're taken away from all the distractions. You're taken there. I think probably the supplement side is, it's probably legit. You don't have to worry about legality, and they're not taking fake stuff. I think that's a big thing, and I think you can just focus on bodybuilding. Train hard, eat good. I hear there's not a whole lot other stuff to do, so you might as well do that. Yeah, I'll go. Sure, why not?
Fair enough. Now,
do they actually have camels there, though? The Camel Crew, I haven't seen any camels on any of the.
I see Lamborghinis. I don't see any camels. I see stuff like that. One thing that you've talked about in a lot of videos, you're in a comical way, you talk about steroids. It's something that people really don't like to talk about. Most of us don't anyway. Especially, back when I was starting out, the guy's never ever talked about it, especially on the record. And now it's become this huge, huge thing where we have guys like Boston, who I've had on the Ronline Report, Boston Lloyd, and they talk very openly about it, and they've got this cult-like following for being open and honest, even though they're talking about using anywhere from 3 to 10 times what I know for a fact a lot of very good bodybuilders I personally know and have used. Why do you think it's become such a big deal among this new generation to want to hear all about drugs? And do you think it's an impatience thing where they just want it fast?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think the talk of the steroids, like the bodybuilders in the past that didn't talk about it, made sense. I don't blame them. Why would you? They're making, if they got a supplement contract, a magazine contract, there's a lot of money on the line. Why would you say anything about steroids and risk losing all that? And honestly, it's not going to benefit you hearing what they take, because what they take isn't going to benefit you for where you're at the moment. So it made sense. And I think now there really isn't a whole lot of money, so people just want that wow factor. You know, they want to, I'm going to talk about steroids. I got nothing else, and I got nothing to lose, so I'll get some, you know, followers. I'll get some fame from this. Yeah. I think that's what it basically is. I don't really like talking about it that much, but I don't mind joking about it because it's real, or if I'm asked about it, I'll talk about it, but I'm not an expert. But, I mean, I think everybody knows it's in every sport. It's been talked about everywhere now. It's not even that big of a deal. I think we need more education, and I think it should be legal also, so people that want to do it can actually have a physician watch them instead of getting stuff from, you know, East Jabip, and you don't even know what's in there. There's body part pieces in there, metals, you know.
Well, that's something I also want to ask you about, you know, legality. You know, like marijuana, it's becoming slowly legal everywhere. I'm in Massachusetts. We can actually possess it and smoke it now legally if we want. We just can't legally buy it, so go figure that. I don't know where we're supposed to get it from, theoretically. But, you know, we're living in a country where everyone's on some type of prescription drug pretty much. The TV commercials are all prescription drugs. And like I said, marijuana is legal in several states, and I predict within 20 years, it's probably going to be legal in every state for personal use by adults. Why do you think there's still this stigma around steroids, that steroids are bad, steroid users are bad, we're cheaters, we're this, we're that? Why does it still have such a horrible reputation?
I don't know. I think, like, the reason why it's illegal, I think, well, think about politicians. A lot of them are old guys, you know, sitting up there in Congress, and they don't take steroids. They don't lift weights. They don't want to hear about guys looking better than them, but they smoke, they drink, and all that stuff we know is way worse than taking a steroid. But they do it. That's never going to be illegal. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it too. And yeah, because it's in all sports. I mean, just the people that get caught, you know, are the ones that, you know, they're all taking it. People are doing probably Scrabble tournaments on ESPN. I saw one time. They're probably on steroids, you know. So it doesn't make any sense. It should be legal. But like I said, I think there should be education, and then you know, it should be real pharmaceutical stuff so people don't get hurt. It's just making it worse, is all. And then they can tax it and make money off of it.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, we're taxing the shit out of cigarettes and everything. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten my share of ignorant comments and questions about steroids. I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the best ones that you can recall where people were just really moronic?
I mean, I think when you're not even talking anything about even bodybuilding, you're not even talking about working out. And like I've done some videos where I'm just, you know, being funny and talking about something unrelated, and there's comments, you know, about being all juiced up and just really nasty stuff. And I think people, there's people, it's like an ego thing. I think if, you know, natural instinct of a man is they don't want to be intimidated by another guy that's bigger than them, better looking than them. So I think that's what it is. It pisses people off, and I don't get it. And, you know, everything's negated too. Like they'll say, oh, the only reason you look like that, it's all steroids. So I think that's a shame too, because bodybuilders take steroids, but they work harder than probably anybody else in any sport. And it's a shame that it's negated just because of a drug.
Yeah. When you got into this, you know, I was a smaller kid, didn't do well with girls back in the 1960s, and they, I had this vision in my head that once I got big and jacked, the girls would be flocking to me, and it didn't quite work out that way. I think, most of the time you see girls now, it's just with a guy with a little bit of muscle and some abs, or he's got the dad bod. Maybe he's making a little more money than the next guy. Did you have a similar idea in your head when you started out that the girls were going to be way into big muscles, and didn't turn out to be true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I got into the bodybuilding thing not really for the girls, but of course that's what we all want too.
Yeah.
But so that was definitely a thing. But I noticed, as I got bigger, that didn't do nothing. I think it was the opposite effect because they're kind of like you're kind of weird, different looking. So I'm just going to kind of back off a little bit. Because it's really just about your personality and if you can talk, if you got game, it really doesn't have anything to do with how big you get. Of course, there is that niche.
Yeah.
Some women do like really jacked guys, but in particular, that's not the kind of woman that I'm into,
Right. Well, from my personal observations, it's like a groupie. It's a groupie situation where it's not the same like five girls, but it's the same bunch of girls going after almost the same bunch of guys. It's kind of like Melrose Place, if you remember that show.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Everybody.
I never watched it.
No. Everybody ends up banging everybody eventually in this between these two particular groups of people. Popularity of bodybuilding. It was. I don't know if it was more popular back when it was on TV. I don't really think it was. I think it's always been a cult sport, but there's this outcry from a certain very small amount of hardcore fans that they're outraged that bodybuilding isn't more popular, that mainstream people aren't interested in it. Do you think there's any possibility that the mainstream world that watches soccer and football and baseball and basketball would ever be into watching pro bodybuilding on a regular basis?
I don't think so. Unfortunately, I wish that was the case, but I don't think so. I think the gap of not appreciating hard work in our society now is like this, and then also the gap of the steroid thing becoming even more, people bashing it more and it becoming heard because, people don't want to work hard. So they're going to say, oh, that guy's that big just because of steroids. I don't want to take all those steroids. I don't want to look like that. So that gap is widening like this. So I think it's going to get worse. I think bodybuilding is going to be even more of a niche thing, and the other classes, classic physique, they're gonna take over. It's more obtainable. Nothing against them. Yeah. But it's a little bit easier to obtain, and that would be more mainstream.
So out of all these new divisions, we have obviously many. You've been following the sport, how long do you say you've been following it altogether?
Probably since I was 19.
Okay, so I believe back then the only other thing we had was women's fitness. We didn't even have figure back then. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe it was just starting, but now we have obviously bikini, women's physique, men's physique, classic physique. Which one of these is your favorite after bodybuilding, and why?
Oh, man. I mean, bodybuilding's my favorite and the only thing. I mean, the women's divisions, the women's physique. I think it's a shame, like, the women's bodybuilding kind of disappeared. People talk about it, oh, they look manly and all that stuff, but if you're a bodybuilder and you're a guy, how can you look down on a woman that wants to do the same thing? Yeah. Like, I mean, I get the passion for bodybuilding. How can you judge a woman for wanting to do the same thing? But that's just how it goes. But women's physique, I think, is the closest thing. So I think that's a good one. But bodybuilding's still my favorite. I mean, the classic physique is pretty good. Yeah. Isn't it just really the same thing as bodybuilding, just trying to turn the clocks back?
Different shorts.
I mean, yeah, I think pro bodybuilding now, it's getting a little, I don't know what's going on. Is it the drugs? I don't the work ethic. I think it's a combination. They're all starting to have that same look.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a coaching thing. They're all doing the same kind of thing in this inner circle. But I would like to see it come back to the 90s, which has been said before. Yeah.
Well, classic is really getting popular fast. It's only the second season that it's existed, and we already have like big names emerging in it. And the things I talk to some of these guys about that could make it better are bringing back like the old school Arnold type of short trunks instead of these bike shorts or whatever they are, and let them do all the poses. I don't know why they're trying to. I understand that they want to make it separate and different from bodybuilding, so there's not as much confusion. But what would you change about it that would make it more in line with what real fans like us want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. The posing and definitely the trunks. Yeah, definitely make it. If you were going to do a classic, put the same classic trunks on. I mean, I think what's going to happen, it's kind of like a fine line. Like, you're bringing it back. I think the classic physique is eventually, years down the line, going to just turn into the 90s bodybuilders. They're going to get bigger, but they're still going to look good. And that's probably going to be the peak, I think, of classic physique. And then you just have to, be careful and not jump that line where you're at bodybuilding now. Yeah. And maybe, I don't see bodybuilding, going away, but I hope it doesn't happen like, women's bodybuilding where classic physique completely takes over, because then what does bodybuilding, the word, actually mean? Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what happened. And we had Linda Murray on this very recently, and she's trying to bring women's bodybuilding back. And I don't personally see men's pro bodybuilding, open bodybuilding ever going away the way that women's bodybuilding did, unfortunately. But as a fan yourself, are you excited for this Mr. Olympia coming up? Is the sport exciting for a fan anymore, or isn't it?
I mean, I don't want to disrespect any of the athletes because I think they're awesome. But honestly, yeah, the last couple of years, it feels like it's not that exciting. There isn't much of a build-up. And I think the bodybuilders are great, but with social media and everything, people interacting, that's why a lot of the YouTube stars and social media stars are more popular, because we can interact with them and they're out there more. The bodybuilders, we don't see them. We don't hear from them. I mean, we do a little bit, like on this show, but I don't think enough, and there's not enough personalities. There's not enough characters to get invested in to actually care. I think that's the problem. It's like a show. It's got to be like a television show. You form a relationship with the character and you care, and then you want to tune in. I think it's just every man for themselves. I mean, it worked. Dorian Yates, it worked for The Shadow, but that was his character. Everybody can't be like that. Right. I think that's the problem. So, yeah, it's not as exciting, unfortunately.
Well, we have Phil Heath is probably going to win title number 7. Obviously a lot of us admit and admire his physique. I think he's got a hell of a physique, and he's not Mr. Olympia 6 times already for no reason. He's earned those wins, although Kai's pushed him pretty hard. But he's not very popular with a lot of the fans, and I'm really not sure exactly why. Is it that he's not exciting? Is it that why do you think Phil is not as popular as he should be, as a guy that's won 6 Mr. Olympia titles in a row now?
From my perspective, I never hear from him. I never, when I'm on YouTube or I'm on, he's not part of Muscular Development. He's not interviewed, I guess because he can't because of contracts. Yeah. I never see anything about him, so I don't know anything about him. And the only thing I hear is people say he's a jerk. Now, I don't know that because I don't know him personally, but this is what I hear, and I never hear his side. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, we don't know. So how can you care about him or anything if you never see the guy, Well,
you bring up a good point, is that social media has given opportunities for people like yourself. Like, there's a lot of guys and girls that I would watch any old day over, and no offense to a Phil Heath or a Sean Roden or, some of these guys that have tremendous physiques, but do I want to sit and, do they have much to say? Are they entertaining? Not really. And you can argue that, they're the best athletes at what they do. Why should they also have to be entertaining and interesting? But if you want to have a following, which is what this is all based on now, people, and some people from my era get really angry that someone like, a Boston Lloyd, or I don't know, I don't even follow a Piana. Some of these guys have these tremendous fan bases, and they say, well, this guy's he's not even a pro. He never even won a major contest, and this is bullshit. Do you think it's fair for the older generation to say this person deserves to be famous and this one doesn't because he hasn't achieved something? Or should everybody be free to follow, watch whoever they want, like we do?
No, I think everybody should be free to follow what they want, but I think it goes back to the hard work, not appreciate it. So people don't, appreciate, you know, a bodybuilder anymore for just being a bodybuilder. You know, like I said before, with the social media, but it's also a side where we're in new times. So those old school bodybuilders, you know, we can appreciate the hard work, but they got to get out there so people see them. Unfortunately, we're just seeing a ton of these other social media stars, and people, you know, they just follow them because that's all that's there. But I mean, if there was a jack body, if Phil Heath was, you know, out there all the time and had a personality, like, I'd be watching him over any of these people that really have nothing to say, or it's the same thing over and over. So I get both sides, and I've been like anti-social media. I've been on that side too, but I also see the side you kind of have to adapt. Yeah.
Does it upset you that a couple of these social media stars have been called out for basically being fakes, you know, Adobe Gains, Photoshop? I don't want to name names, but you know, we had one of them out here making an appearance in my area in South Shore of Boston a couple months ago. And he was the one that was really lambasted last year over this. They'd show the pictures before they were doctored and after they were doctored. And this guy in person, he had an injury not that long ago, but still, this was nobody you would ever look twice at if they walk by you in a gym and go, wow, never. But he has a couple million followers on social media. He's made a tremendous amount of money, you know, post pictures with his Lambo and new pair of sneakers every 10 minutes. Do you think it's, you know, does it even matter? I mean, is this just entertainment? Does it bother you when you find out that these people aren't what they purport to be?
I think to a point it's okay. Like, you could doctor pictures if it's just something you're putting out there, funny, but I think when you're selling something, when people are paying money and have an expectation and think they're getting it from this person and they want to look like you, and you're putting something completely not real out there, I think I have a problem with that. I think myself, I couldn't live with myself doing something like that. And I would be paranoid if people saw me in person and said, you don't look anything like that, you know? So, I think if they're selling something, they're ripping people off, and that sucks.
So, in that similar vein, what do you think about, you know, the fake body parts? I don't think I have a problem with fake asses. I love big asses. But what about like synthol on the arms and the shoulders, when you see these guys giving, you know, again, no names, but telling people to do this workout every night for their arms, and you can have 29-inch arms like me, when we know that that's not how he built his arms. Does that bother you at all?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, if you're selling something and then you're doing something like that, definitely, I think that's messed up. But the synthol, I mean, I heard bodybuilders, even pros, have been doing it for years, but to the point where it's just a little bit of like a spot enhancement. It's not like, you know, you're literally trying to make your arms from nothing. You know, you got to do what you got to do when you're at that level. I've never been at that level, so I can't judge. But if somebody's selling, look, I got these arms, you know, from this product, you know, then that's BS.
What about the coaching industry, which has really exploded over the past, I want to say 5 years? Coaches were still not that common 10 years ago, but now everyone, even a bikini girl can't do her first novice show without a coach. You know, I grew up when there were no coaches. There was these guys like Gaspari, Haney. That's when I started following the sport. There was no such thing as a coach or a guru, but now everyone in that Olympia lineup, for the most part, everyone competing at the national level, pretty much almost everyone at the regional level has to have a coach, or they feel like they can't do it. Do you think that they've been brainwashed into thinking that competing, getting in shape is something that's just impossible without the guidance of an expert?
Yeah, I think that everybody's a coach. I think, like, when I started, personal training was big. Everybody wanted to become a personal trainer in the fitness industry, but now the coaching with social media, it's easier. You know, you can make money sitting at home making a program or copy and paste in a program. And I think it's a mistake for people just starting to get a coach right away. I think you need to fail. You need to figure out your body, learn your body. You know, everybody says you got to listen to your body. I think you have to fail. And because I always said, if I ever made it to the national level and I keep getting top 5, then I would look into getting a coach to help me get to that next level, but if I never got there, I'm not going to get a coach. And I think that's important. You know, I think the coaching is, I think in the future, because there's coaches out there that have no idea what they're doing at all. Like, I've seen stuff from people, and my coach told me to do this, and I'm like, what are you paying for? So I think there's going to be more problems with the coaching. We're going to see more people have health issues. I mean, I'm not even talking about coaches that are coaching, top coaches that are coaching the pros. I'm talking about, you know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry online that's a coach that never even did a show themselves. I think we're going to see some issues, unfortunately.
Well, with the, you know, your line of logic, if I'm a coach and I'm trying to get you to hire me, I would tell you, well, you know, you've done very well at the regional level. If you hired me, I could get you to the top 5 at the national level, and then you keep working with me, I can get you a pro card. What would you say to me if I was coming at you with that sales pitch?
Well, me, I would be like, well, how? And then I want to see your record. Have you ever done that with people, you know, that aren't genetically gifted, you know? And then I'd be like, oh, we actually did it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's the other thing. There's so much more knowledge and everything available now, and there is a lot more honesty and transparency. And, you know, when I started reading the magazines, I, honest to God, looked at a picture of Gaspari or whatever and said, I could look like that in a year. Or I would look at, you know, Lee Labrada, all these top Olympian guys. In my head, I had no idea that they were genetically gifted and there were other factors involved. I think now that the people getting into the sport, which might be a reason where we don't have as many people gravitating toward bodybuilding as we do these more attainable divisions, like you said, is because there is an awareness that to look like these guys on the Olympia stage or on classic stage, you have to have a very elite set of genetics to start with. Forget about the drugs. Then you have to actually have a genetic response to drugs that most people don't have, a higher level of that. And then you add in a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, sacrifice, maybe some good coaching. You know, so a lot of dreams have been dashed, I think, in that aspect, but I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing because, you know, there was kids like me. And I don't regret it. I'm not bitter about it that I thought I could do this and I was completely delusional. Do you think it's a good or a bad thing that the people getting into sport now have a much better, more realistic idea of what's possible and what's not for them?
I mean, I guess it could be good and bad, but yeah, like when I started, I didn't know anything about drugs, never even heard about steroids, but I got into bodybuilding. And that's like crazy to think of now because a lot of people hear about steroids first and they start working out and a couple weeks they're like, well, when do I start taking steroids? I went years with working hard before I even knew what it was and actually thinking I could get to that level too. And then the eating, and I was like, okay, it's the training and eating that have to be 100% to get there. And then years later, I found out about steroids. I was like, oh, okay, well, I already have the work ethic, and I'm not going to stop because I've been doing it, and it's working. Yeah. But then add that in at some point. So I think, yeah, I think it's pretty bad because steroids, it's all reversed. Everything's reversed. And hard work sometimes doesn't even come into play. I know I used to work at a GNC, and a kid came in, been working out for 6 months, looked good. And he was like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing steroids. I hit a plateau, and I'm just not making gains anymore. I'm like, you look like you've been training for 5 years, and you want to do steroids after, 6 months? It's insane thinking.
Now, I want to get your take on this because you're a fellow meathead. To me, I love the training aspect of what this. I would train till the day till they put me in the ground. I could really give up the way that we have to eat. If I could get away with eating 3 times a day like a normal human being, it's not even what we have to eat. It's not like I want to eat pizza and burgers and fries and all that stuff every day. It's the fact that we're basically prisoners to this eating schedule.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound too negative about it, but it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I've been doing this for almost as long as you've been alive in terms of the eating and stuff. Do you, as far as you're concerned, what is your favorite part of the bodybuilding lifestyle, and what part do you wish you could either do without or change?
I mean, my favorite part is not looking like a normal person because that scares the crap out of me. I don't want to be normal because in my head I don't feel like I'm normal, for better or worse.
Yeah.
But that's I mean, the reward from it is of course the best thing and the strongest drive for me to eat 8 meals a day and suffer through it and throw it up, but then I got to keep eating because I can't lose those calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best. And then the worst, of course, is the monotony and being shackled to this thing that you can't stop ever. Every day you got to do it, even on the weekends when other people are clubbing, and you're still on the grind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have this. You built. I don't know how small. I don't know. Were you a small guy when you started, or were you always kind of husky?
Yeah, I was fairly small. I wasn't skinny, deteriorated, but I was. Yeah, I wasn't one of those people that look like, oh, you got a good base before you even start lifting.
So you compete as a super heavyweight. So you've built a tremendous amount of muscle since you started doing this.
Yeah. And I think my structure, my bones, I think might be thick.
Yeah.
So.
Because how tall are you?
5'9.5".
And you're competing at obviously over 225.
Yeah, I was 238, I think, at the North Americans.
So this is a question I ask a lot of the pros and stuff, and you're a long ways away from this because you're still fairly young. But when the day comes, can you ever see a day when you're going to have to intentionally downsize, saying, I'm 50 years old, I'm 60 years old, I can't be walking around at 260, 270 pounds all the time anymore. Does that scare you?
Nah, never. Get big and stay big forever. No, realistically, I don't see myself getting past 40, honestly. I think after that, I'm done.
I said that. No. I said that about 30. I said that about 40. I'll be 50 in a couple of years. So the years hopefully keep going by. So it's hard to comprehend.
If I'm still ticking, I think I've always said, by the time I hit 40, if I haven't accomplished, a lot of stuff in bodybuilding that I wanted to, got a pro card, I think then I would downsize. Yeah, I wouldn't be pushing myself the way I do, definitely.
Because, you don't make a living off this.
No.
I could be 120 pounds and do exactly what I'm doing now. It really wouldn't matter anything. But to you, is bodybuilding a hobby? It's just something you love to do?
Yeah, I think when I started, I was a loner kid, didn't have a lot of friends, and I got into this thing, bodybuilding, and it was the one thing I had control over. I could look what I did myself. I built myself up, and I did this. Nobody can take it away from me. So it's definitely an emotional thing, an attachment to it. Yeah. So giving it up is probably going to be hard. Hopefully I become a different person by then.
Well, would you ever consider moving into something that's more functional, like CrossFit?
No.
What, you don't seem to like CrossFit very much.
No, it's it's a lot of work, a lot of running in a circle and jumping up and down to look exactly the same you did before you started the whole thing. So,
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny. I think the CrossFit people, they walk around with the T-shirts that say CrossFitter. They're the only ones that have to say what they are because you can't tell what they are unless they had a shirt that said it.
Yeah.
Baseball player doesn't walk around with a shirt that says I'm a baseball player on it.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan.
No, I'm not the most famous Ron Harris. There's a guy who started basically porn on the internet. If you go to ronharris.com. You can see he owns about 300 or 400 different porn websites. There's also a British soccer player from the 70s, I believe, named Ron Harris. Jeffrey Wright is the actor famous for The Hunger Games and Westworld. How often are you confused online with him? Has there been any actual confusion?
No, never had anything. But my name is pretty generic, but I always thought maybe that would be a problem, but people, never been confused with anybody. Yeah, I know there's an actor. He's black. I'm not black, so maybe helps with the fusion.
Do you have any plans are you going to the Olympia? You're going to be at any particular booth where people can meet you?
I'm not. A company, No Surrender Gear, brought me to the Arnold the last couple years. Great company. They do shirts and jewelry and stuff, but no plans for the Olympia. But I'm always looking if there's a company, out there that I believe in and you know, a two-way street. I would love to do something like that, but no plans as of right now for the Olympia. Now, probably in the next year or so, I'll be qualified to compete in the Olympia. But I mean, that's obvious, goes without saying. But until then.
Now, do you have any plans to do anything more with these videos? I mean, you get really good views on Facebook. YouTube's not bad, but you could obviously, you know, I think you have the personality and the humor and stuff here. This could actually be bigger if you wanted to. Do you have any plans or aspirations to bring it to some other level?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, when I started it, I never thought this would happen. So I just really, I hope something happens with it, but I really just enjoy making the video. So I don't really think of it as like I'm making this video now so I get this many views and then this is going to happen. I really make them just because I enjoy it, but I hope something comes from it. The next video I'm going to be doing is actually a spoof coaching video. Like I'm going to have a client call and I'm going to be the coach.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the next thing. But yeah, I'm actually going to be doing my first stand-up show.
Wow.
At the Barrie Championships, which is in Ontario, Canada. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to do a stand-up set. Terrifying, you know, but it's in Canada, so if I screw it up, I'll just come back home and say, that wasn't me. I don't live in Canada, so...
Yeah, it's cool because, you know, I think you'd be great at stand-up, but my issue would be with, I don't know what else you can talk about. You talk about things that the bodybuilders, I find hilarious, and I know 99% of the general public wouldn't even get most of these jokes. They would have no idea what you're talking about, or they wouldn't consider it funny. You know, like sometimes I find it uproarious, but you know, could you actually do regular stand-up? Have you ever thought about going to like the local comedy stop or something?
Nah, I never thought really about stand-up because I definitely am aware and acknowledge that stand-up is a completely different thing than I do in front of an audience. But the thing is, this stand-up is at a bodybuilding show, so kind of makes sense. So hopefully the audience will appreciate it. But yeah, I never thought I would even be doing this. But, you know, Matt Roberts, that's running the Barrie Championships, contacted me, and I had somebody else say, you know, you should do like at an intermission at a show, maybe like a little routine. So I thought about it before, and then the opportunity presented, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. You know, why not? So, yeah, I don't know where that's going to go. You know, I might get up there just like bodybuilding. When I did my first show, I was like, I'm going to love this or I'm going to hate this, and I loved it. I may get up there, love it, want to do it, and maybe that could be something. You know, people might want to book me for different shows. Or I might bomb and get kicked out of Canada. So.
Well, I was recently up there in a fine place, very polite people. They keep their Toronto kept very clean, so I think you'll have a good experience up there. Where can people find you? I know Facebook is Jeff Wright, your name. There's probably more than one Jeff Wright on Facebook, but
oh yeah.
If you're a meathead, you probably have like 432 mutual friends with Jeff, so he shouldn't be that hard to find. Where else? Smashing Weights, Jeff Wright on Instagram.
Absolutely. And yeah, YouTube is Smashing Weights, Jeff Wright. Yep. This is where I plug all my social media stuff to look really popular and have people follow me. Right?
Are you on any of these other things like Snapchat, Twitter, Periscope, whatever else?
I'm not. I don't even know what the Twitter, the tweeting, and the Periscope. I don't even know what any of that stuff is. So.
Periscope's on a submarine. That's all I know.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
There's only so much I can handle, you know.
Exactly.
So maybe in the future I'll be snapping and tweeting. I don't know.
Cool. Well, it's been really cool to have you on as a guest today. A little different from our typical guests. We're not talking about who you're going to beat at the next Olympia or how many sets you're going to do for biceps tomorrow. A little different, a little more entertaining. So appreciate having you on today. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. You usually have like champions on. You got this nut job this time.
Okay, that's okay.
It's an honor. I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. So for the Ronline Report, this has been Ron Harris with Smashing Weights, Jeff Wright.